Good evening. My name is Paul, and tonight we're going to be talking about the ICW, specifically between Brigantine, and we're going to talk about all the water between Brigantine and the Great Bay. There's a lot of water. Everything to the south of here has been kind of really narrow, right? The the water has been narrow. The ICW has been kind of slinking around, kind of like a snake. Now we're going to start seeing that the water is really going to start opening up. Once we get to the Great Bay, it's kind of like a giant lake, and there are some larger bays between Brigantine or Atlantic City and the Great Bay, but most of them are really shallow, so you can't really go into there, but they do look inviting. So be very careful when you're boating in those areas, but we're going to be talking about those spots. Again, I always like to start all these webinars off with just kind of highlighting our partners. John Anderson, who highlighted various items on the Delaware River, Happy Captain's Boating Instruction, and Sea Scout Ship 117, who will both be covering different parts of the Barnegat Bay, probably in the next couple webinars. I don't think there's anybody new on the call. Only a couple people on the call, nobody new, so I'm not going to go over any quick housekeeping items. Kind of keep it too nice and simple. Kind of mentioned this before on the last webinar, but I think it got cut off. Our recording did not start until after this slide. So people kind of asked me on the last call or before the last call, hey, why am I doing these webinars? I'm doing this webinar because in 2024, at the end of the year, we did submit for a national award, and we did get it. Part of that award was the fact that we are now providing services, both kind of a full gambit of services, if you will. We do on the water, we do in the classroom, we do tabling events, we do certifications, we get out, we teach people how to drive boats, we have Red Cross certification seminars, and this webinar was part of an online offering. So we said we were going to do it, and we're doing it. Doing this webinar is really kind of helping me learn, helping me understand how to produce a webinar. This is a great thank you for helping me understand, helping me learn, helping me broaden our school's offerings. So we're just going to kind of jump into it today. The next session will be not the 14th. That's today. No, yeah, we'll be on the 14th. But we're just going to try to kind of jump right in to the charts today. Again, I've kind of migrated now, and all I really use, hopefully I am still talking, and I did not break my Zoom connection on the iPad. Okay, share the screen, share everything, start, share. Okay. I think I am settled now. The last week, this is where we ended our conversation last week. We ended our conversation in Atlantic City. There's a lot of boats in Atlantic City. A lot of people come to Atlantic City because it is just kind of the perfect halfway stopover. A lot of people are nervous about boating in the backwaters. So a lot of people stop over here when they're kind of jumping between Cape May and New York City. So what they do is I'll kind of zoom out so you can kind of see where we are in relation to, I guess, the world and geography. In my annotations, I use pink again because it shows up on the map and it shows up nice and easy. They have Cape May here. People just like to kind of jump into Atlantic City. It's a nice, easy stopover port. And then what they'll do is they'll kind of jump up and they'll either do a full leg up to New York Harbor, or they will stop over kind of somewhere around the Manasquan Inlet. A lot of times people just kind of do a full push up to the New York Harbor. Unfortunately, people are nervous about going into the intercoastal back behind Atlantic City and up into the Barnegat Bay. I'm not sure why. For some reason, it gets a bad rep. It gets a bad rep because it's shallow, right? But a lot of places are shallow. In this area, you have to kind of stick to the channel. If you kind of veer outside the channel, you can get stuck. Same thing can happen up in the Barnegat Bay. And it can be deceiving because up in the Barnegat Bay, you have areas where the water looks really nice and wide, but in actuality, you have to stay in the channel. Because if you go outside that channel, you can get stuck. But the bay looks really inviting, and it can be very deceiving. So I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to be starting our conversation. Let me make sure that on my other screen that I have my agenda up so I can be following along. I can make sure that I am on track. Okay, so just so again we can orient ourselves, make sure everybody knows where they are in the world. I zoomed out so we can see where Atlantic City is, where Brigantine is. That's just kind of up north of the screen, top right of the screen. Farley Marina, a lot of boaters, if they're not on the call, they may see this webinar later. This is Farley Marina right here. Cameron's Marina, which is another great location. A lot of people stop either at Farley Marina for fuel or Cameron's Marina for fuel, which is right here. Okay, when you are entering this marina basin, you can reach out to Farley Marina on channel 65. Cameron's will answer on 16, and once you reach them on 16, they will ask you then to switch to either 68 or 65 to continue the conversation. But do not reach out to either of the marinas until you are in this marina basin. Okay, so what am I talking about? If you are entering the marina, I'm going to use red here. Do not talk to these guys while you are out here. Okay. If you pick up your VHF radio and call them, they're going to say, hey, thanks for calling, but we got a whole lot of other stuff going on. We're running around on the docks. We got all these other people to make sure that they're not hitting other boats. Please just give us a call back when you are passing the Coast Guard station or passing the bulkhead, which is right here. Okay. Coast Guard station, for your knowledge, is right here. I will circle it right there for you. All right, that's where and when you would want to be talking to either one of those marinas, and they will then tell you where they want you to dock. Just follow their instructions and follow their lead, and they will safely have you dock wherever it is they want you to dock. Okay, let's work our way over to Brigantine. I'm not going to talk about the inlet. I'm going to have a separate webinar where I'm going to talk about navigating the coast and navigating the inlets, because the inlets themselves are going to have a whole separate kind of caveat, whole separate conversation. All right, let's talk about the Brigantine Cove. I forgot to mention, I do have a person helping me this evening, managing a lot of the copying and pasting into the comment section. Caitlin, she is going to be helping me. Great help. Absolutely wonderful that she is helping me with that. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. I may not see you raise your hand because all I have is the agenda up and the map up in front of me. Okay. All right, let's talk about the cove. This cove here that I just zoomed in, a lot of people like to come over here. They like to beach their boat. But let me center this on the screen so it's easier to look at. I will annotate this cove for you. I'll use two different colors. I'm going to use red. The red is going to be kind of where you do not want to beach your boat. Next part is going to be where it's kind of a good area to beach your boat. Okay. And now this will be kind of where, I guess I'll use yellow, a cautionary area where it can beach your boat. So why did I mark that one area red? Because that one area is directly in the inlet, and there can be a lot of waves from boats passing by, a lot of fast boats there. The wakes from that and the wakes from the ocean energy can really mess with your anchoring scenario, and it can really damage your boat, or people can get hurt. Not a good scenario, not a good place to anchor your boat, not really fun. So a lot of people, the preference definitely is to, if you're going to beach your boat here, do it along that skinny side, right there where that pink line is. And that yellow line, why do I have that yellow? Because cautionary, because you're kind of halfway between the two areas. Okay, stop annotating. We're going to slide ourselves into here. Okay, on your way in, that whole area past that beach, that all was an awake zone. And there is a nice anchorage back in here, as we can see, with these anchor points. Anchor points are highlighted by those anchors. There is a nice anchorage back there. Some of the anchor balls are owned by different people. So it's a good idea to kind of identify what the anchorage balls are and they are not. They will have tags on them. Some of them will be kind of like a, I don't know, like a, not 5x11, but like a posted, not a postage card, like a plastic card. Some of them are a metal disc on it. It'll have for someone's name. Usually pretty easily identifiable. Sometimes they just have a letter or a couple of letters on the, like a person's initials on it. Usually pretty easily identifiable. And there's a couple of them that are free to use. So just kind of be careful which ones you're picking. Make sure you're picking one that's not owned by somebody. So where is this area that I'm talking about? Let's annotate it so you can see. Page it back to pink because it's easy to see. Right, when you come into all this area here at the moment, all of that is kind of a no wake zone. It's not really marked that it's no wake zone, but you can't go fast because there's so many boats around that if you go fast, people are just going to throw bottles at you and just yell at you and scream at you. The only area that it is marked, I'll highlight it with red, circle it with red, is around the beach. All the other area that it is not marked, but people are going to throw bottles at you and curse you off. So don't, just good to go nice and slow in that area. All right, once you get into the bay though, you go down into here and you can anchor your boat. All right, if there's too many boats on the sand, you can't beach your boat, you can go over there, anchor your boat, have a great time. Absolutely awesome place to hang out. Okay, stop annotating. This is a dead end bay, cove. Can't really go anywhere back here. There's some houses back there. There's another area back here. You can anchor back there. Some of the residents kind of get upset if you anchor back there too long, but you can anchor your boat back there and relax. Just don't be back there for too long. The residents can get upset about that. Okay. All right, back out to the main inlet. This is the inlet. So in the inlet, we're going to have red on our right, returning from sea. Talk about the red buoys and the green buoys. This is only a short distance until we get to the bridge. And just after the bridge, we reach a kind of a creek or a channel or a stream called Little Panama. I'll highlight that here. This will take you to the back side of Brigantine. All right, I'm gonna try to cover some of these. I can't go into too much detail because if so, I'll be here literally all night. But it is some skinny water, so I want to highlight some of these things. As you're going into Little Panama, be mindful of some of the currents and some of the things back here. Okay, first thing we come across is you have some kind of like two pockets of houses, right? The first pocket of residential houses you're going to come to, or if you want to go to the Brigantine Marina and Paddle Club, if you have a slip at the Brigantine Paddle Club, I'll circle it here. Come on. Okay, you need to make the first turn. Okay, when you come in, you need to make this first turn and then follow along the houses to get into the paddle club. Do not plan. If you go to the paddle club, do not go in this direction. Okay, you used to, back in the day, you used to be able to go that way. Back when it used to be owned by Scots, before it was owned and converted to what it is now. When it used to have larger boats going in and out of there, the larger boats would dredge it as they would go through there, but that channel has since silted over and you can't get in and out of there anymore with larger boats. And now that the larger boat traffic has since drastically diminished, the only path in and out of there now, stop annotating, that you must, from Little Panama, make this first turn, then follow along the houses. All this area is going to be in the wake zone. Okay, hug the house side. Okay, some of this area you really have to hug the houses, especially as we approach the paddle club. Okay, as you approach the paddle club, you can see the contours here. It really doesn't do it justice because the image and the annotate. All right, in order to get into the paddle club, you really have to hug this to get in. All right, you really have to hug that. You can't go outside of that. If you go outside of that, you just get stuck right away. All right. If you have a wave runner or a really shallow boat, you may be able to get away with it, but don't go into that mud too far because you're going to suck up some mud, suck up some seaweed, and you're going to get stuck really fast. All right, so if you want to get from the paddle club, which is right here, to the boat ramp, you have two boat ramps in the area, three boat ramps in the area, I guess. You have Absecon, you have Brigantine, and you have Atlantic City. The closest one by land is going to be Brigantine. So to get to the Brigantine boat ramp, you have a couple options. Okay. Just put this right there. Okay. Couple options here. Annotate. All right. So to get to, you have a high tide option and you have a low tide option. And you have a deep hole option and you have a shallow hole option. I'm gonna show you the first option. I'll do that as a green option. Okay, coming in from Little Panama, we're gonna come in and you make this first starboard turn. Okay, then we're gonna come in, then we're gonna follow the houses this entire way As soon as you get next to the houses, there's going to be no wake all the way in until you get to this bay. Then you have a little spot of reprieve where you can kind of pick up for a couple of moments, and then you can go all the way back into here to the ramp, which is all the way back there where I circled it. Okay. So yeah, I do have another option. That is your no wake speed, no wake direction. And you go that way at low tide or high tide, any tide you want. At low tide, you have to, if you have a deep hole, at low tide, you have to hug the houses. At high tide, you have some more room, more wiggle room, and you have a little bit of reprieve. At high tide, you have another option. At high tide, you can take this all the way up here, and then you cut across. And then you can follow, there's a channel over here, and you take that down to the boat ramp to take it out. Okay, so again, you have two options. The top option with the purple, the pink line that I showed you, you have plenty of water for your boat, a deep hull boat, up until this right here. There is no water over here. Okay, at low tide, you're talking nothing, nothing. At high tide, you're maybe talking about 3, 4, 5 feet at most on a blowout tide, 5 feet at high tide. High tide, low tide, you could be looking at some land or 1 foot. So depending upon your depth of your boat, tread lightly. I've gone back there with a 30-footer that draws 4 foot, 3.5 foot at mid tide. I've not had any issues. I've not done that this year though. Cito and Boat US do go back there quite regularly to pull people out. Okay. Leave that. So what is that path back there? I knew I had zoomed out. It was hard to see. So every chart software that you see out there will have some things that are there on a chart which are not there in real life. Okay, so put this so you can kind of see it. And where's the annotation? On the bottom right of the screen, there is a channel marker right here. This channel marker has additional channel markers. They go out like this. Something like that. Okay. That channel marker, the last channel marker, is what I use as my straight line. Change this to magenta or pink. Me personally, what I do is I take, as soon as I come around this bend, I want it a straight line. I do a straight line to that channel marker, and I'm good to go. I have not run aground yet. It has gotten skinny, and I have not run aground. That island, that landmass that it shows there, I have not found that yet. It does get skinny. I do not go through there at low tide to make sure you're checking your tides before you go through there. Do not go through there at low tide. I don't know where Bill is. He's my local guy. Who's supposed to be commenting on this. He lives there. Okay. All right, let's look at the ramp basin. There's a couple of things, a couple of marinas right here to look at. Looking at here, we have, I will circle them. Back here, redraw. Okay, right here is this is the Elks Marina, the Brigantine Elks Marina. We have a boat ramp. We also have the Diebold Boat Works over here. We have Bob's Marine. And there is the Yacht Club, which is right here. Right, and that's the Yacht Club. Okay, everything around, anytime you're within 200 feet of a marina, pier, wharf, or dock, it is a no wake zone, slow no wake zone. It does not have to be, you do not have to have a buoy. All right, it's just like driving it past the school, it's a 25 zone. You don't have, it does not have to be marked. Right? You do there. I don't have it marked on the agenda, but in this area, there is since there is a yacht club, they do have kid programs, summer camp programs, and you will get kids out there on little itty bitty sailboats. So if you're coming through there, even though this gigantic, not gigantic, but this big bay technically is not a no wake zone because it's a big area and you're not near any houses. Even though it's not in a wake zone, when you go past those little kids, slow down. You know, no reason to hurt any little kids. If you see me out there escorting any paddle boats, please yield to me. All right. Other than that, over here there is one of these is marking the. I forget if it's CETO. One of these is CETO. And one of these is Boat US. And Jolly Roger. Jolly Roger's around here. CETO, Jolly Roger. That's it for Brigantine. You do have the north end of Brigantine. There is no longer a marina over here. There used to be a Brigantine North Marina, but it has since gone by the wayside. It's supposedly there's a set of condos going in place of it. I have not been up there to confirm that, just that it has been going in there. So I was not going to cover up there unless somebody lives up there, needs to talk about how to get up in there. The best kind of rule of thumb is to hug the houses. Don't kind of venture away from the houses to get up to the north side of the island. Okay. The approach from the ramp, you follow the channel. Once you get past the channel, you follow around, stick to the houses, and you'll be good. Up here on the north end, there are some sandbars, and that's where you really have to stick to the house side, stick to the land side, because if you venture too far away, you're going to run around really quick. Okay, let's leave Brigantine. Goodbye, Brigantine. In order to get out of Brigantine, you got to go all the way out of Little Panama and then get all the way back out to the inlet. All right, now we're back out to the inlet, and you will see that there is a indicator for a marina. I don't know why that is still there. That is the old Harrods Marina. That is not there. We'll slide up a little bit until we get to the Intracoastal Waterway. Right here, we have two options. You can either go to the south. Going in that direction will take you south towards Cape May. Or we can go this way. We can go north towards Great Bay. Entertaining. And we can go a little bit further north. I'm going to zoom in on this. I'm not sure if you can see this. So what we have here this, I'll circle this. This is a junction buoy. Again, we have another fork in the road. Okay, if we go in this direction, we will go to the Great Bay. If we go in this direction, we will go to the Absecon boat ramp. All right, let's follow the Absecon channel and see how we get back there. Now, I have been following on social media to learn that there are some channel markers that are currently missing as of May 12th back towards the Absecon boat ramp. But something you have to keep in mind, on May 12th, we are so early in the season. All the channel markers are not necessarily out yet. They're still out there. They're still working to get all that stuff out. So don't be surprised if those things do not show up yet. You know, after Memorial Day, yeah, those things should be out there. Okay, so coming from this channel marker, I did misspeak when I showed the arrow on that channel marker. Using that channel marker, you want to keep to that channel marker to your left, to your port side. Okay, that is a green channel marker. Okay, you want to avoid that sandbar on the port side. There is a wonderful sandbar here just waiting to kind of grab you. All right, you just want to kind of be careful of that. Do not want to run around on that spot. Okay, stop penetrating. All right, we're going to keep going. You do have an island here. You kind of stick to the larger side, just kind of follow it around. I'll zoom out so you can kind of see what we're looking at here. There are some buoys that are out here, and there are some channel markers. There should be. Okay, the channel, relatively, for the most part, should go in this direction. Okay. This way of looking, this way it should be going. All right. None of this is a wake zone. All this is wide open, plenty of room to run. There is an area where it's kind of like a bay, so you don't necessarily have channel markers between point A and point B. It just kind of ends. What's nice about having a satellite view is you can see kind of the boat where the boat used to be. Last year when the image was taken. All right, here we can kind of just follow the contours so we can see where we're going and where it goes. Just kind of follows through. Good rule kind of thumb, if you don't have the channel markers, it kind of goes in a straight line, but it's hard to see it. Okay. These channel markers are constantly getting ran over. Okay, so out here, this channel goes in a straight line, right? It goes in a straight line. There are times when it's going to curve up right when you get up to the top to the river. Well, for all intents and purposes, it goes in a straight line. So once you're in there, you're good. If the buoys aren't there, it should be relatively safe. But right now, right this moment, the channel markers are not there. So be mindful of that. Kind of zoomed in enough so we can see them here. There's a channel marker there. White dot on the screen. All right, coming in, and the river kind of does this a couple S turns on its way in. And just before the Absecon boat ramp, right here on the top of the screen, it does become a no wake zone. All right, you don't want to be throwing any wake. If you ever try to undo or remove your boat or hook your boat up to a trailer, you'll be thankful when that boat slows down going past. Last thing you want to do is have a boat rocking you to death right on top of you. That is not fun. All right, if you want to use the boat ramp, there is a fee to use the boat ramp. You have to pay the fee at the Absecon Bay Sportsman Center. Okay, yeah, on your way down the road, stop here. You pay the fee here, and then you go down here and you put the boat in, and then you park along the street. All right, really not difficult. Yeah, you get a hang tag, you put it on your window, on your mirror, and you're good to go. Okay, I've been up here in a 30-footer, plenty of water, not a big deal. Just be mindful what you're doing, and where you're going and how you're managing your boat. Next up is up the creek marina. That's the next marina on the left. That is right here. Up the creek marina does have, they do have quite a few tournaments throughout the year. Good place to go to get some bait. The Absecon Bay Sportsman Center. Both places are great. Absolutely great marinas. Good, both absolutely good people. Good people. All right, zooming out, and I'm going to slide us back to the Intracoastal Waterway. Now, okay, here we are, back to the Intracoastal Waterway, back to where we had that fork in the road. Okay. Now we're going to kind of follow along here. Head towards the Great Bay. All right, we're going to follow along the Intracoastal Waterway. Make sure you're paying attention to where you're going. Since we're in the Intracoastal Waterway now we have green. The green buoys are going to be between us and the ocean seaweed. All right, and red buoys are going to be between us and the dirt, for us and the rust of land. In this situation, since we're going north, green will be on our right and red will be on our left. Green is on our starboard, red is on our port. Okay. Looking at a chart and curious how that we know we're on the Intracoastal Waterway. It could be, you might be able to see it here. I'll annotate it. Just look at that annotation. Okay, there's this kind of purple or magenta line that's dashed right here, going along the channel. That is indicating that we are currently following the Intracoastal Waterway. And in this stretch of the water, make sure that we are respecting this channel. All right, as we're going along the channel here, if you ever go from telephone pole to all of a sudden a floating buoy, it is very much indicative of a sandbar that tends to move often. So make sure that you slow down and respect that floating buoy. Okay, there's an instance right here where the buoys are right on top of each other. It can be very confusing. And if you're driving your boat and you'll be like, wait a minute, why does the red buoy, why does it all of a sudden move? It's like an S turn in the middle of the channel. It doesn't make any sense. It's going to keep going straight. If you keep going straight, you're going to suddenly run aground. All right, you got to respect these things. You got to follow them. These are some reasons why people don't want to drive their boat Intracoastal Waterway and they just take it outside. Because they don't want to deal with some of these things. But in actuality, it's absolutely beautiful back here. Just make sure you have some bug spray. The greenheads could eat you alive back here. All right, come around here. Here's Shad Island. Shad Island is an interesting island. Every now and then it has some gigantic construction equipment on it. I don't know why, but it does. Come around here. Right here at Shad Island, do want to point it out on the port side here, bunch of dots. All right, you'll get these sticks, lots of sticks in the water. All right, for clammers or I don't know what they're used for. But just be careful of them. Don't run them over. You could easily confuse them with um, sticks that channel markers or sticks that look like channel markers in really, really shallow areas. Don't confuse them. Make sure you're following the buoys and the telephone poles in this area and don't run into the sticks because the sticks are on some really shallow spots. All right, follow the channel in this area and it keeps going. All right, here is an area where it can be Great Bay. Yep, right here is where it opens up into the Great Bay. It does make a very sharp turn to the port. It's almost like a dog leg right here. And that's because you have to avoid a sandbar. The Great Bay, I'll zoom out so you can see this. Actually, what I'll do is I'll change the view. Change the view to the sonar chart, and I'll get rid of the overlay so you can see exactly how shallow this bay is. All right, this bay is roughly 6 feet. I mean, 7 feet deep by, I don't know. It's a lake, right? It looks like a lake. Anyone that tells me it is not a lake, I don't know. It sure looks like a lake to me. I don't know. Back in the day when I was younger, there used to be a group that would try to. I remember there used to be a group to try to drive monster trucks across, mud trucks across the bay. I remember it. I remember seeing advertisements for it.
Paul, can I interject just one thing?
Go for it, man.
At marker 139, essentially right where you are, if you go past that, it's really impossible. You see on your chart there, you have a very shallow bar. So if you're going to head up into the Mullica River, you either need to make your turn there or go all the way up to what we call in the Seven Islands channel, the Fish Factory channel, or Crab Island, and take the channel there. It's that little bar looks like you could just hop across that 3 foot or 2 foot length of depth of water, and it's impossible. You're jammed up heading to the west.
Absolutely. Yep, you're spot on there. So I was about to cover this and I haven't covered it yet, but thank you very much. Yeah, so as you enter the bay or the lake or whatever you want to call this thing, you definitely have to mind the dog leg into the lake into the bay because you can see the spoil area or this 1 foot section of a sandbar, and you can see the 139 that Ed just highlighted. That 139 is your beacon for everything that is the Great Bay, right? That is your turn point to go north to Mullica. That is your turn point to go take a starboard turn to go out up to Tuckerton. That if you're coming the opposite way, that is your turn point to go south to Atlantic City, right? That's your turn point for everything. And you have to respect it because that is also warning you about that 3 foot, that shoal on the other side of it, right? So make sure if you're going around that 139, you're doing that on the south side of that 139. And if you're doing that, make sure that you're doing it on point, right? Don't go too far away from that 139. Look at that sandbar. I mean, it's not just there. This is kind of deceiving, but I'll draw in a little bit more of what the sandbar actually is. So there's also a sandbar like right here. All right, so not only when you're coming in, right, you kind of have to come in here and you go right to this 139, and then you kind of jut out to go that way if you're going up to the Mullica. All right, or when you're coming back in, you come to this 139 and you go 1 to 39, and then you can either turn and you can go follow the buoys right down up to the inlet, or you can follow it to go to Atlantic City. But this 139 is key to absolutely everything to exit in this direction from the Great Bay. Absolutely. Thanks, Ed. Good catch on that. All right, let's talk about the Great Bay. So the Great Bay has a couple of things. I am going to go in more detail. I guess I can talk about it now. We got plenty of time. The Great Bay has a couple of really neat things. So from the 139, we'll kind of use this as a starting point. Let's slide this all the way over to the far right. Okay. First thing we have is Oyster Creek. And I'll circle it right here. Oyster Creek. Oyster Creek, it's an absolutely wonderful restaurant to go to. I love going there. It's expensive. It's a great place to go out and have food, great place to get dinner. Used to be a fine dining restaurant in my scaled book. Let me change this view. The sonar charts. Just a little bit better. Okay. You go straight from the 139 to the creek. All right. There will be 2 channel markers. You can see the 2 red buoys. You have a red buoy here and a red buoy here. But be mindful as you approach this inlet from the bay that there will be crab pots everywhere. All right, and I am not joking. Crab pots everywhere. So be mindful of them, keep an eye out for them, do not run them over, pay attention. Okay. As you approach the inlet entrance to Oyster Creek, it is also called Leeds Point. There is a sandbar. Okay. There was a sailboat that sank here during COVID that kind of messed things up. It kind of created a sandbar that you couldn't really cross. The sailboat was removed. The sailboat was removed. The sandbar has dissipated, but it is still there, and it can be difficult to get across at low tide. Okay, so let me highlight it so we can see it. So you can see the 2 foot, right? And you can see kind of where its contours are. So it's there in the middle of the channel. It kind of takes up the entire channel. So you have to, it's like a bar. You gotta cross the bar. All right. So don't plan to cross this thing at low tide. You can get hung up on it. Cross it at mid tide. Don't cross it at low tide. Once you gotta go over this thing, you have plenty of water the entire way back to Oyster Creek. All right, it does get narrow. It's not wide back here. Change the satellite imagery so you can see what we're looking at. It is really narrow back here. Make sure that you spray your bug spray on you before you even enter this creek. especially if you're going back for at low tide and if it's anywhere near July. Because of all the marsh, the no-see-ums are just going to pick you up and carry you away. Right. Okay. All right. Now, if you miss the entrance to Oyster Creek, the next channel or the next inlet above it is going to get you to Mott's Creek. All right, Mott's Creek. Let me get rid of the overlay so we can look at the chart. Mott's Creek does not have that sandbar, that bar to cross as you enter the inlet. Okay, but it is a little bit more deceiving as you approach it because it's a little bit tilted, if you will, so you don't necessarily see it as you approach it. Even though it looks bigger, it's just a little bit more tilted, just oriented in a different way. It's also a little bit further back as you go. Bring it back to the satellite overview. The Mott's Creek kind of winds around here. Again, make sure that you have your bug spray on before you enter this creek, because the no-see-ums and the greenheads are going to pick you up and fly away. All right, be careful as you wind your way along this creek. It does get shallow, not shallow, it does get narrow. We'll zoom in here. Okay, there is a small dock where you can pull up to, get out, and have some food. There is a dock, I did not highlight it, but there is a dock at Oyster Creek. I'll zoom out and we'll slide down to it. Into Oyster Creek. But it's a little bit blurrier. Oyster Creek does have a pretty large bulkhead, plenty of room that you can pull your boat into, tie up, get out, and anchor. It can be a little bit more difficult to get off, though. Even though it's bigger, it can just be a little bit more difficult. Good place to go. All right, let's get back out to the bay. All right, and back down. We'll get rid of overlay. Options. Okay. And we can see our 139, right? From the 139 buoy, our next option can be to the Mullica River. Mullica River is a straight shot up. All right, once you get up to the Mullica River, there's a whole lot more up there. We're not going to really go into more detail about that until I think Wednesday. We're going to cover that. There's just a whole lot more up there. There you have the Viking Yacht Center. You have there you have Chestnut Neck. You have Jersey Cape Yachts. You have Sweetwater Marine. You have Crowley's Landing. You have all sorts of stuff up there. And we'll get more into that on Wednesday. Again, just like the Tuckerton River, it's pretty long, it's pretty lengthy. I think that we can almost fill a whole hour talking about that. Okay. From the 139, you can also go straight to, as long as they don't have their sticks in the way, we can go straight to the Great Bay Marina. Okay. If you're going to and from the Great Bay Marina, you have to respect that 139 buoy. Remember to leave that 139 buoy on your port side. Okay, if you're going to the south, leave it between you and that sandbar. Highlight that sandbar again. The sandbar is over here, right? Don't cross that sandbar. Zoom in. Change satellite. Don't look at the Great Bay Marina. As you approach the Great Bay Marina, the marina does have its own sticks. It has its own channel marker sticks lining its way into the marina, and you'll be able to use them to follow them into the marina. I believe they are private, and they do put them out on their own. So you'll be able to follow them and be able to get in. That's these sticks right here. I'll circle them so you can see them. These sticks right here. They do have sticks on the way in to find your way in. You do see that it says 1 foot. They mark the entrance for the way in. So what does it look like? Going in there. All right, nice big open area in there. Plenty of water once you get in there. It is protected, so the wind could be blowing out on the bay. But once you get in there, there is quite a bit of protection, and it is a little bit easier to dock once you get in there. It can be deceiving. All right, something I want to highlight that it's over here. Change this back to no imagery so we can see them. Now, hopefully everybody sees these little sticky things, right? Everyone sees these sticky things. These are the most annoying things. All right, we have these sticks that are all over. I don't know what they're for. They're for something. I don't know, catching oysters or clams or something like that. Don't run them over. They're all over out there. Just be mindful of them, and they appear out of nowhere. And there's crab pots and crab traps. If you're going through this area, be mindful. Pay attention. Why would you be going through this area? You'd be going through this area to get to Mystic Islands. Mystic Islands has 2 entrances to get into. You can either get into it via the Mullica River, or you can get into it via a creek. You get into, and the creek is right here. They do have there's a hole or something over there on land to use as a waypoint. I'd have to be standing on the water to tell you what it actually is, to be honest. All right, but you cannot get to that from 139. Okay, so if you're at 139, which is down here, you would have to go into the bay about halfway before you made your turn to go in. And frankly, I don't think I would do that. Okay, so if you're at 139, you either go most of the way to the Great Bay Marina and then turn and follow the shore to get to Mystic Islands and go in, because of all of those sticks and the crab pots in the middle of that bay. They can be downright annoying, all the stakes and stuff. All right. The other option you have to get to Mystic Islands is you could go from 139 up to Mullica River. Once you get up to Mullica River, you have the back entrance to Mystic Islands. If you don't know where Mystic Islands is, and this is Mystic Islands back here. It's a neighborhood on the water. In order to get into the neighborhood, you take this path into there, or you take this path into the neighborhood. There's only two paths in. There is a marina in there. You have Monroe's Marina on the inside. They have lift service. They do have a ramp, and they do have fuel. And there's a bait shop, a lot of services on the inside in there. Okay. You do have another option to get over there, which is the long option, or could be the fun option. You have the stink house direction. Let's look at the bottom, the south end of the Great Bay. We're going to go from 139, and then we're going to try to get to the inland. We're going to do that. You want to make sure that we're paying attention to the buoys. Let's change this to a sonar chart so we can look at what we're looking at here. The sandbars in this area move not frequently, but frequently enough that you really have to pay attention. And you should really respect all the floating buoys in this area. Do not go through this area at full keel unless you're familiar with the area. And don't go through it at full keel immediately after a major storm or nor'easter. All right, and definitely not at the beginning of the season. All right. There are quite a few people that have gotten stuck in this area with deep draft boats because they did not respect the buoys and they followed different paths that were, quote, recommended paths and did not follow the buoys. The reason that there's buoys there are so that the Coast Guard or the engineers can just kind of pick them up and move them over to the safe location. So make sure that you're following the buoys in this area. All right, and we can see that it just kind of curves and follows along. All right, so we can see did that on the wrong side. Right, so we can see that the buoys really just kind of really avoid some of these sandbars, right? Make sure you're paying attention to what you're doing. All right here is, you have a couple islands here. We have Fish Island and we have the stink house. Changes the satellite so you can see. A lot of confusion going on here. A lot of people get confused, don't necessarily understand what they're looking at. A lot of good fishing in this area. Good bottom fishing, good fishing all around because you know, a lot of nutrients in this area just kind of rushing through. All right, so you have a couple of different pathways that we can take. Again, make sure that you're paying attention to where you are, right? So we can go this way. That will take us towards the Intracoastal and go back up north, either out the inlet or up towards Tuckerton. Or we can go this way, which will take us back up towards the stink house and or towards Mystic Islands and back towards the Great Bay. We can slide ourselves a little bit to the north over here. And let's see where we are. Right here is the stink house. It's a shame we can't see it. Oh, there it is. Right here is a stink house. Great spots for fishing. And on this side, we do have a boat ramp. All right, that's Scott's Landing over there. And there is a boat bridge. Not a boat bridge. There's a bridge that has a vertical clearance of 14 feet. All right, it does not open. Be mindful of that, depending upon what you're trying to put in, put out. Does the chimney go down? Does the top go down? Do the, you know, you don't want to take anything under there that has a fixed roof. That would not be able to put underneath that bridge. You don't want to get yourself in a jam. Okay. Zoom in here. We can take a look. Plenty of water going back there. Just don't cut your corners and you won't run into any issues. Okay, plenty of water to get back there. No issues whatsoever. The ramp is on the back side of the bridge. You have to go underneath the bridge and around the back. That does make it accessible from both sides, the Tuckerton side and the Great Bay side, which is convenient. But unfortunately, you would have to go underneath the bridge to get to it from the Great Bay side. All right, back over to the Great Bay. When you are coming up from the stink house, the channel does make an S turn here. And if you're not paying attention, you can run aground. In this area, I do like to have my chart plotter out so I can follow my route. There are channel markers here, so you should really be able to follow it. But if not, I have seen people go out into that 2 foot, 1 foot area, into that sandbar and run aground. Just make sure that you're paying attention. So this is where you're supposed to go. Follow this channel off in that direction. Just make sure you're paying attention, because I have seen people not pay attention and run right up aground up there, because I see the sticks, right? All those clamming sticks, and they just confuse it with the channel marker and they just run around. Right, coming up here, there is a marina right over here. We have Captain Mike's Marina. Great guy over here. Great group. They do have fuel. They do have a ramp. Good people. They do have quite a few things going on. It can be shallow back there, but if you give him a call, he'll help you get back there. Just kind of shoot for the middle of the opening and you should be good. Don't hug the sides. Just kind of shoot for the middle. So what do I mean for shoot for the middle? You can see that green buoy it's kind of dead center there of that channel. So if we're in this channel, kind of go for the green and then go in. Right. You don't want to hug the edges. You don't want to, what do I mean by hug the edges? I'll go with a red. You don't want to do this, right? You don't want to run aground. You don't want to coming out. You don't want to run aground on the edge, right? You want to kind of stick to the middle. If another boat's coming in and out, go to the side, but be gentle with the side, especially at low tide. And up to the north a little bit. There are some buoys as we go north. Just be mindful of them and pay attention as to where they are. All right, a couple marinas over here. Not sure which ones are there, which ones are not. All right. I don't get into these often. Anybody on the call know if either of these are still here? Cape Horn and
Well, Cape Horn is definitely still there. I've been there last year and this year. I'm not real
Okay.
familiar with the Rands though.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Rands. Thank you for letting me know that Cape Horns is still there. I've been back there once or twice, just not enough to be 100% familiar with it. You know, uh, it's not too difficult, honestly, to get in and out of there. I do know though that you have to be paying attention as you're going over here, especially if you know you have to know where you're going, right? Are you going to these marinas, or are you going to Mystic Islands, right? If you're going to the marinas, all right, you kind of have to be paying attention. Okay, then I want to stay right here, and I want to go into. It's obvious to say it, right? But okay, I want to go in this direction. Or a lot of people suddenly get over here and say, "Oh shoot, I meant to go to Mystic Islands and go that way." Right? Just kind of pay attention to where you're going. Stay the outside of the sticks, or are these stupid sticks over here? Right? Keep the sticks between you and the shallows, and you'll be good. All right. Kind of draw a line. Use the sticks as your channel markers between you and the land. It'll be nice and fine. There are some buoys. There are some floating buoys that do get out there occasionally, and mark the entire way over to the Big Creek into Mystic Islands. All right. And yeah. So that's everything I wanted to cover today. Did anybody have any questions? Did anybody want me to cover something, zoom in on something, talk about something? There are some people that jumped on the call towards the end that if you wanted to see something that people are still
Well, I will just comment that the buoys are in already this year from really all around the fish factory or the all the way back to Gravely Point. So a lot
Oh,
more
they are?
green, mostly greens. And as you're familiar back there, a lot of times you're using the shoreline as your red. And there's also
Yep.
Parson Seafood has two very large oyster farms that are projecting out into the water back in there now too.
Okay. That's all those stakes back there.
Yeah, and also from the shoreline side, from the mainland side, they have those big floating cages projecting
Really?
out probably 100 yards. They're marked with a white ball at the end.
Oh, someone's gonna hit those things. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah, they're black. Not too easy to see at
Oh,
night.
okay. Oh man, have you come across those black crab traps yet? The
Yeah, I just love
black
them.
balls.
Yeah, they're almost all black by the end of the year with the growth on them. But yeah,
Oh,
they're tough. And every year they're getting a little closer to the channel.
yeah. Anybody else have anything? I'm not sure who just joined, but we were literally just reaching the end of the conversation. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about to see in particular? And if it was Mark or Kevin, one of you guys just joined.
This is great. I guess came across you guys on the last week. I do have a question for the previous webinars, but I don't want to go off topic until we're open for questions.
Sure. Yeah, we were talking about that at the beginning of the call as to when we'll get that. I don't know. Try it. I'll try it. I'll get that posted as soon as I can. We do have a YouTube channel. You go on YouTube and search our name, that'll pop up.
Oh, that's great. This is awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us for this session of Whitman Marine Training's Boater's Compass. I hope you found this discussion helpful in navigating safer and smarter. As always, stay aware, plan ahead, and respect the water. Don't forget to check out our upcoming webinars. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like covered next time, please let us know. Subscribe for updates. And until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and enjoy the journey and get out on the water and have some fun.